Mike Murray.
This is
SNL.
SNL.
By the numbers.
Numbers.
Tall Teller, take two. Ashley and his mukes hook up. Get the focaccia. There's the opening haiku for you. I am your host, Mike Murray, and this is SNL By The Numbers, the home of SNL stats. Tonight we are covering episode 992 of Saturday Night Live with host Miles Teller, musical guest Brandi Carlile. This podcast is a presentation of LateNighter.com. Back with me, it's been a minute. Here he is. You know him. You love him. It's that Sammy Kay. Welcome back, Sammy. I miss you, buddy.
Dude, I miss you as well. It's very nice to be back here on By The Numbers. Really my favorite show on the network. I love getting into all of the screen time and the stats. It's very fun stuff. And, I'm excited to be here this week, especially because I was just reading. Reading my articles, reading, Vanity Fair, something like that. And I see an article about Ashley Padilla, and they mention our boy Mike Murray. I don't know if have you seen this? They mentioned Mike Murray, and you're quoting your stats. I'm like, I know that guy. I'm gonna be on this guy's podcast this week. It's very, very exciting to see you get the spotlight you deserve.
Oh, thanks, Sammy. First of all, clip that. This is Sammy's favorite show, as it should be. So, it was sent to me a couple times. Vanity Fair. Pretty cool. I don't know how reliable that guy is that they were quoting, but it's fun. Yeah, I should make a collage, like a cork board, and just put those articles up. So yeah, I appreciate it, Vanity Fair, giving the spotlight to Ashley Padilla and using the stats to back it up, which we do on this show. And back with me talking about this show is, a huge part of By The Numbers season 2. We're up to the 81st By The Numbers show, and this show wouldn't be what it is without Nicole Rovine. Welcome back.
Oh, that's very nice. It is so fun to be back. It's been the last couple of years. Every couple of months I've been popping in, and I do want to make that more often. And I think it will be more often starting now. So I'm so excited to be back. And
so
I appreciate always being so warmly welcomed.
Of course, we love you, Nicole. And are you still loving SNL? Let's get into it. Season 51.
Of course. I mean, it's funny when it's not when I'm not having the mindset every week that we had when I was working with you guys more often. It's a little bit different, or it's a lot different.
It's less stressful.
Some weeks I find myself being the watching the clips that go viral person, which is just so crazy. Thinking about the way it is when we're not being that person. So some weeks it's like that. Some weeks I watch it live. Some weeks it's somewhere in between. So yeah.
Yeah, I've realized that. I think this season more than ever is that I still watch live every week if possible. And after every episode, I'm like, why do I hate every episode? And then I just because watching it live, doing live stats stresses me out, but it's fun. And then I watch it, I'm like, oh, that was a great episode. I actually loved it.
Yeah, it's so interesting to watch the show like we do, because we're so in it. We're so, as super fans, are so kind of in the weeds of the minutia of it all. And this weekend I was in Chicago visiting some friends, and with the time difference and everything, we were out Saturday, and I wasn't watching live. It was my first time not watching live in a while. And then I just go on Twitter, and I'm like, oh no, seeing Rami Youssef spoilers, and it's so, and I cared a lot about seeing stuff early, not the way it was supposed to be seen. So it's just I don't know, us super fans, we just watch the show in such a unique way that it'll be interesting to see, if I'm ever not regularly on a show like this, how am I engaging with the show? Is it any different or anything like that? Mm-hmm. So it's cool.
It is
cool. Yeah.
Like live sports, it's if you're writing a column about the Super Bowl and you're not going to be enjoying even if your team's in it. So it's just it's a different process. Right. And then I end up watching a sketch 8 times in a row, depending on what the sketch is, and just seeing every little detail, which can make it better or worse, but it's a fun
I feel
process.
like 8 is way fewer than how many times you watch it. I feel like
Well, it depends on the
it's got to be
sketch.
more like 15 to 20 times each.
How many people are in the sketch? What the camera layout is like?
Yeah, soon we will have. I saw the SNL YouTube put a behind the scenes for that for a Netflix true crime documentary sketch. A couple days ago. We're gonna get a little documentary of Mike Murray doing the stats, really seeing the does to with his stopwatches and everything like that, the amount of work that you put in, and really show the people what it's all about.
I thought about doing like one of those time lapse videos of just from beginning to end getting all the stats. So if you're interested in me doing that, let me know, because usually I just want to get it done as soon as possible.
There would be such an audience for that.
Yeah,
calculating the power ranking live, because it's fun for me too, because I don't know what's going to end up at the end of the show, and so it's always really fun when I get to do that. Control C, Control V, pop in the power rankings and see how they change. It's like it's an exciting like 2:21 a.m. moment for me on like Sundays and Mondays. So maybe people would like that.
I need to thank Unknown in the chat for saying I look 19. That's the second time this hour I got that, and I'm really shook because that's so specific, and that happened to me like
age.
42 minutes ago. Yeah, the person said 19 or 20. Literally, it's 8:15 at like 7:30 p.m. So the universe is being, it's the second of 3 consecutive supermoons tonight, actually. So that is something that would happen. It's unbelievable. So 3 consecutive months, there's a supermoon, which is insane. And I was born on a full moon, so I make that a really big deal.
I was born during a supermoon. But yeah, I mean, the person's name is unknown, so it could have been the same person in real life and in the chat.
Anonymous.
Said that. So thank you. I had to point that out and while I'm at it, I need to get it out of my system.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll spontaneously combust if I don't mention that I ran the New York City Marathon on Sunday. It's like you have to bring it up or you will actually you'll explode. So I just needed to get it out of the way. It was amazing.
There's some numbers involved there.
To talk about it a lot.
26.2.
So many statistics.
Yeah. I've thought about running a marathon just so I can come on the podcast and tell people, but maybe one day.
Sure. Well, yeah. That may or may not be related to me being back this week. I don't know. I don't know.
That's a good cross promotion. But Sammy, you could just not, and you could just say you did on the next podcast.
Next year. I've never told a lie on this podcast.
There are marathons every week, all the time.
That's true.
Just say you ran one.
Well,
just kidding. Don't do that. No,
Sammy Kay has never lied. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
So speaking of 3 consecutive, we had 3 consecutive SNL episodes that the host was not only in the cold open, but said live from New York at Saturday night. So that hasn't happened since 1987. So that was pretty cool. I had the split screen World Series SNL, and then I saw Miles Teller in the cold open. It's like, okay, it's going to happen. He's definitely going to say live from New York in this cold open, and we'll finally get that stat. This hasn't happened in any of our lifetimes on this panel. So pretty cool first right there. And of course, he got the most screen time. So we're going to look at those numbers now. So you have Miles Teller with 9 appearances, including that cold open, 19 minutes, 19 seconds. Nicole, I know you love those double numbers, right? 19, 19. Speaking of 19,
of course.
It's meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the show is seeing you track this, and I think they're just going to keep going and going with the host saying it every week until you run out of references or anything to compare it to. This is like insane that it keeps happening. And then also I know something that is on the agenda to bring up is the shorter monologues. So there's got to be a connection between sorry. I'm a little rusty, but a connection between the hosts appearing in the cold open so often and the monologues being shorter.
Could be. Kenan Thompson, top of the cast, big comeback for Kenan. He has been averaging less than 3 minutes a show for the first 3 weeks of SNL, and now this first of this run was 10 minutes 2 seconds. That's his 8th 10-minute episode in the past 5 seasons. So huge week for Kenan, who maybe people thought was going to happen with Amy Poehler, but it came with Miles Teller, 10 minutes 2 seconds. After that is, of course, we are in absolute Ashley Padilla mania right now. 9 minutes, 25 seconds. How does she keep doing it? But that's pretty crazy. So we're going to, of course, talk about Ashley Padilla a lot, but she's leading the cast in screen time and appearances. That's 32 minutes, 10 seconds of screen time so far, 21 appearances. John mentioned on the roundtable that this is the first time in SNL history that through 4 weeks, a featured player has led the cast in appearances. So crazy, because number 2 is 18 appearances right now. I think that is Keenan, and Ashley's at 21. So it's not even like a tie or ahead by 1. 3 more appearances than the next cast member and as a featured player. After Ashley is, of course, Brandi Carlile, who's now been a musical guest 4 times in 4 years. So this is a prolific run, Sammy. What do you think about, the musical guest stats that we can have? I mean, she was just on the show in the spring with the Elton John, Jack Black episode.
Yeah, I mean, she's clearly becoming a friend of the show. I think she is the type of musician, like I don't listen to her music, but when she's on the show, it's not like it can be with some other acts where even if I'm not a fan of them, I sort of tune out. Like she's just such a great performer. And like earlier in the year, at least she was sort of paired up with Elton John. So it was like a little different, I would say. But I'll be curious to see if she continues this trend next year.
Yeah, because she was musical guest with the Steve and Marty like week before Christmas episode. And with Sudeikis when he hosted in 47, that was October of 2021. So she had 8 minutes, 50 seconds and 2 appearances. I was in a sketch, though, with Sarah Sherman and Jack Black last appearance. That was pretty cool. So maybe she could join the 5 Timers Club by doing double duty. Who knows? After Brandi is Dismukes, 3 appearances, 8 minutes, 45 seconds. He's back at the update desk with Ashley. That was a cool pairing to see a lot of this week again. Bowen Yang is back in the building after being on the West Coast for the Sabrina episode. He did appear in that grind pre-tape, which I loved. He's back with 7 minutes, 12 seconds. This is a great week for Bowen. He hasn't had this much screen time since the Mikey Madison episode. So big Bowen week. Colin Jost is not for second or third, but he is 6 minutes, 47 seconds at update. Chloe Fineman, 6:32, 3 appearances. James Austin Johnson, 3 appearances, 2 of them as Trump. 5 minutes, 54 seconds. Mikey Day, who had a really light week and then got, a lead at the 10-1 with Chloe Fineman in that Italian restaurant sketch. His screen time was 4 minutes, 31 seconds. Ben Marshall, 4 appearances, 3:51. He's now led a couple pre-tapes. Who would have thunk Ben Marshall getting some pre-tape work after 34 PDD shorts? Veronica Slawakowska, who had a huge week with Sabrina, is in the middle of the pack here. 3 minutes, 28 seconds in 4 appearances. Tommy Brennan, 4 as well. 2 minutes, 59 seconds. Michael Che, lowest screen time in 15 episodes. 2 minutes, 55 seconds. He hasn't had an update desk since Sarah did that Rhonda character talking about the mayoral election, which was yesterday. That's 2:55. Marcela Hernandez narrowly avoids the shutout. Nicole, were you watching live for this episode?
I was absolutely not watching live because I woke up 2.5 hours later to run my marathon. Actually,
you ran the marathon?
when it ended, I woke up. Yeah, I woke up about an hour after the show ended. So, I didn't watch live. But actually, shout out to John for texting me around 10 p.m. and I see his name on my phone. I said, "Oh my God, John texted me. Good luck tomorrow. That's so nice." And it was something SNL related. And so as amazing as that was, because he knew I was going to be on the show, wanted to give me some intel that might help inform my analysis or something. I have to call him out because I think that text should have been about something different at that time. So no, I didn't watch it live, but thank you for the question, for teeing me up for that.
No problem. I mean, we can.
So I don't
I'll tee you up
spontaneously
later.
combust. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, John never stops.
But no, I did not.
He's
never stops, that guy.
The T1000 of SNL. He's probably podcasting right now. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
he's cloned himself. There's 3 John Schneiders right now podcasting about SNL.
3 Supermoons, 3 John Schneiders.
That's right.
Crazy. So yeah, Marcelo almost had his first.
3 episodes where the host, no 4, where the host.
Well,
said
we're episode
live from
4,
New York.
but 3 in a row with the cold open
3. Yeah.
live from New York.
There were 3s.
Yep, three John Schneiders. One Marcelo Hernandez appearance, though. 214,
Yeah,
narrowly
shocking.
avoids his first shutout. He's been in every episode since he joined the cast. His debut sketch or his debut appearance on SNL was with Miles Teller in that season 48 premiere with the Manning cast. So that means that Miles Teller is 2 for 2 on cold opens. So that's pretty cool. That's where we saw Marcelo, Molly, Longfellow, and Devin Walker for the first time back in season 48 premiere. And then Rami Youssef, my good friend, came back to the show 2 minutes, 13 seconds as NYC Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. So he had the most screen time for a candidate in that debate and ended up winning. So maybe it boded well for Zohran that got the most screen time in the debate. And then behind him is Sarah Sherman. So she was on a hot streak of all hot streaks, had 4.5 minutes plus for 8 straight episodes, averaging 6 minutes, 33 seconds per episode. Finally, a low Sarah week. So, Nicole, I imagine you did not like that. 2 minutes, 13 seconds for Sarah.
No, but what I will say is I think this season so far has done a good job of the tone shifting per episode, just whether it's based on the host or other factors. I feel like it's not necessarily bothering me when cast members I like aren't as involved in certain episodes just because they're leaning into certain tones or like certain vibes. And so, I feel like Sarah is someone who gets a lot of screen time when the vibe is more her vibe that week and then doesn't some other times. Marcelo was a lot more surprising just because I feel like he always um, is in a lot of things and is inserted into a lot of things that are his vibe or not. Whereas Sarah, we know, is more of a specialist than anybody, but also can fit into things too. So I would say the Marcelo near shutout is the most notable and surprising to me on here. And Michael Che, I also want to bring that back up. The last few years, the last like 4 or 5 years since again Sarah had her amazing series of update pieces about Colin. The last few years, there have been so many, just so many fun bits about Colin, and it's been so fun. So many update segments are like playing off of him and making fun of him, and I think that's just been such a gold mine for the show that I kind of feel bad for Che that like when you're choosing who to pair someone with, it's just always such a gold mine with Colin. Like, nothing against Che, but the last few years that's been so many hits. So, and the audience always laughs. It's like an easy laugh. So I think that's
Yeah,
really
the
interesting
Jost
too.
roast has become a staple at updates. So
Yeah.
I feel like maybe the joke swap started it, and then Sarah really made it a thing with her appearances, like as herself. We haven't seen Sarah News in forever, so I like to see that. But yeah, even when she's in character, we have some Jost roast. After Sarah was Shane Gillis. So weird to see Rami Youssef and Shane Gillis together. We're talking about these weird coincidences tonight, I guess. That's the theme of By the Numbers tonight is weird coincidences, is because I had tickets to see Shane Gillis in Boston, and then he canceled because he got the hosting gig of SNL a couple years ago. So he canceled that show, and he rescheduled it. And then I couldn't go to the reschedule because I went to SNL when he was back on his rescheduled date in Boston, and Rami Youssef was the host. So kind of a weird, I was like, oh, There's Shane, there's Rami. So he had 1:44 as Curtis Sliwa. I think he got 8% of the vote yesterday. Jane Wickline, 1:03 in 2 appearances. One was, interacting with a malfunctioning copy machine. So that was a pretty good moment, even though no dialogue for her. She had an update piece cut, which did make it to YouTube, so check it out if you have not yet. Cam Patterson, 43 seconds. He did play the incumbent mayor, Eric Adams, in the cold open. Jeremy Culhane, 2 appearances for 43 seconds as well. And Steve Higgins, 10 seconds of voice work. Sammy Kay, who do you want to highlight on this list from this week?
Yeah, I mean, I am liking that we're sort of getting someone like Ben Marshall in the show more. After that first episode where he didn't have a ton of screen time, we were a little worried. Is he going to be able to
12 seconds?
Is he going to be able to make that transition out of the writer's room into live sketches? And it's honestly been like somewhat jarring just because I'm so familiar with him in those pre-tapes to see him in live sketches. But I think he's been doing great these past 3 episodes. So, middle of the pack here. I think that's, totally fine with me. Right by the slow
Sammy,
speed. Yep.
Can I get a month late reaction from you? I haven't talked to you about SNL yet this year.
Sure.
About the fact that Ben Marshall of the 3 was promoted to cast. Like, what was your immediate reaction? I'd love to know. Because you're a big PDD guy.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. I don't think I've really said this on the pod. I heard about this right before it broke from a good source. And we didn't know who it was going to be.
Don't name them.
I will not. But we didn't know who of PDD was going to be. I just heard, basically that one person's leaving, one person's staying as a writer, and one person is joining the cast. And I really did not think John Higgins was going to leave. Obviously, there's the sort of nepo baby element to it all, but I just didn't see that for him. But so far, I'm liking what we're getting from Ben. He has such a unique look that you kind of think like, is this the type of person that could like do a lot of different things in sketches, just from like a physical appearance thing, like seeing him
because he has red hair.
I'm just saying he's a huge,
Wow.
just a huge, tall man, not the red hair thing.
Sure.
He's just such a unique looking person in a good way. I think
who's the last redhead in the SNL cast?
The last redhead.
Remember?
That would be great stuff to dive into, Mike. Some stats about redheads. Ashley's like
Ashley's kind of a redhead-ish.
I think she is.
So I guess she was the last one because she just joined last year.
True.
But
does
no,
Ben
last
supersede her.
last week, in that that fart prank sketch with Ashley Padilla, just seeing him next to Sabrina Carpenter, who's so short, was just like, was interesting to see. But just to like put a bow on that, I've been enjoying what we've been getting from him in live sketch. Is there any? I mean, and one other thing to add here is I do think I took Mikey Day in the draft, which like just to talk about the draft, like I could have taken Ashley Padilla. I took Mikey Day. I'm really regretting my choice, but it's still early on in the season. But I do feel like Ben is taking a lot of those roles from Mikey as sort of the straight man in sketches. So I'll be curious to see if in a couple weeks we'll sort of see like what Keenan's doing this episode, and we'll get like a really strong Mikey episode every once in a while. But I do feel like there's a lot more people in the cast right now that can sort of fill out that role than necessarily, roles that could be taken by like a Keenan type of, person on the cast.
Definitely. That's a good take. I feel like Dismukes has definitely done some Mikey work recently. And it feels like Mikey Heidi has become Dismukes Ashley a little bit of recent. So Nicole, over to you. Who do you want to highlight from this episode? Did you enjoy the episode? Did you enjoy Miles Teller? Let me hear from you from an SNL vet.
Yeah, I think it was my favorite episode of the season so far.
Hot take.
And I know that like I wouldn't expect that of all the hosts. Nothing against Miles Teller, but I'm not like a Miles head or a Teller. Like there are other hosts I've been more of a fan of, I guess, but there was so much that I loved. I thought Shane Gillis as Curtis Lewa was amazing. I want to see a full movie of him in that character. I was obsessed. I also thought the cold open was niche New York. Like I'm born and raised in Manhattan, so like obviously the show is live from New York, but I think they don't always go so New York with politics, so specific, and then just a lot of niche references and subtle. I thought it was really well written. Like there were very niche New York things that you can blink and you miss it if it's not relevant to you, which I think is important when you're going niche on SNL. So the blink and you miss it if it's not relevant factor is, I think, when the writing is at its best for things like that. So the cold open I loved so much that I loved. I mean, Ashley was, we're going to talk more about her, but I thought it's just, her star is just shining so bright. It's really fun to watch her. I feel like now whenever there's a role like for, a female role in a sketch, I just, in my mind, I think of everyone, she's gonna give it the most like unique spin, or the most, like, a little extra edge in some way, or it's just, she's so specific and adds so much to every word and every line and everything. And so when you start to feel like you just are looking forward to a specific person and what could they do, and I'm sure that's happening in the writers room, which is why she's skyrocketing. It's when you write something and then sometimes you write things for cast members, sometimes you write things and then assign them to cast members. So I think when the latter's happening, I have to imagine they just keep saying to themselves, I mean, who would add the most to this? Ashley. So that's been really fun.
Great segue into our next segment. I love doing these stats and like finding new avenues to present them to the audience here, is trying to over time just identify predictors, because there's so many one and dones on SNL, or featured player, will they become repertory cast? So much chatter about Ashley, like promoter early, promoter mid-season, all this type of stuff people are talking about, is to find ways to kind of analyze in screen time or appearances or power ranking about how they're making that sophomore leap. So you hear that a ton in the NFL with quarterbacks when they get drafted, and they usually, if they're a good quarterback, they're drafted to a bad team because they had a good draft pick, and they struggle because they're a rookie and they're on a bad team. And then when they make that sophomore leap, it kind of determines, honestly, very often and accurately, if they're going to be a starting quarterback in the league for a while. So SNL is very much like that, I think. So I'm going to look at the stats we have so far with our rookies and with our other featured players and the last 25 cast members altogether. So there's a lot of ways to sort this on the screen here. I have the first 4 episodes of screen time freshman year, the first 4 episodes of screen time sophomore year, what the percentage change is from that season, and then what their total is. Because if you had a really bad freshman year and then a great sophomore year, it's going to completely balloon percentage wise. But overall, it's good to see, were they doing well both seasons. So I'm going to start with the percentage change, which of course is, as Vanity Fair called it, Sammy, rising star, new star of SNL, Ashley Padilla, 610% increase. So just seeing that number right there is pretty crazy. Sammy, what do you think about that?
Yeah, this kind of goes back to a lot of times we talk about the numbers and we talk about the eye test, and sometimes those things don't, necessarily correlate with each other. But this sort of rise from Ashley, you could see it in the numbers and you can see it on the screen. It does not surprise me based off these last couple episodes, sort of that number is so extremely high. It's triple Dismuxe's number, basically, as far as percentage change goes. She also, just kind of going back to your point, did not have a huge breakout moment until sort of later in the season last year. And so, but she was always good whenever she got something. I know in like that Michael Keaton episode, she got a little something. There's so many sort of moments early on, but the show is really building on this momentum in a way that I feel like they haven't done with, a new cast member like this in a while. It really feels like every week they are going, back into the writer's room and saying like, okay, what worked last week? Dismukes and Ashley, let's do more of that. Like it really feels like they're not, but at the same time, it feels like kind of like what Nicole was saying, based on the host, a lot of different people in the cast are getting something to do. So just going back to Ashley, I mean, it's does not surprise me that the number is so huge, because you can really feel that impact on screen.
Definitely. So that number, how to unpack that 610% increase is because Ashley had 4 minutes 32 seconds of screen time her first 4 episodes of her rookie season, her freshman year, and now has a cast leading 32 minutes 10 seconds of screen time in the sophomore year. So that's how we get to a total of 36:42 for her career so far of those first 4 episodes combined. and that's the 610% increase. Dismukes is number 2. That one makes sense to me, and he had a really good start of his sophomore year, from 3 minutes 27 seconds freshman year to 11:38 his second. And I talk about it all the time, but like season 46, election year, COVID year, 3 rookies, really tough to break through with a 21 person cast. So that makes a lot of sense, but shows that Dismukes really has. I've done segments on Dismukes, how he's really increased every single year stat wise across the board. So that makes a lot of sense. Punky Johnson is the case I mentioned top of the segment, where it had really nothing much to do. I think it was strolling to the polls with Mulaney, which was like her 4th or maybe even 5th episode. It mightn't even count for the stat at this first 4, but Punky Johnson had a decent increase in season 2 from 256 to 939. That's up 229%. And then Marcelo is the other one that's a big increase from 5 minutes 8, which is pretty decent for a rookie, to 14:05 sophomore year. That's 174% increase. So, Nicole, how important is it to really take your second chance and make the most of it? Because not everyone gets a second chance, as we'll see at the bottom of the page.
Yeah, it's important. Although, as you were asking the question, I was thinking it's important, but it also, at the same time, I think there is such a variety of stories that can be told through this. Not everybody like jumps right away. And some people do jump right away and then they like don't last as long. So I think it's kind of interesting. And as we get more into the data and you show more, I know like the power rankings have been a huge indicator of who is not invited back the next season, for example.
They're too powerful, Nicole.
I think every year I feel like it's been pretty much right on the nose, right? Every single year.
It's crazy. It scares me, honestly.
Yeah, you should be scared of yourself. But yeah, so I feel like this data, there are a little bit more, there's more diversity in the stories that it can tell.
Yeah, the SNL supercomputer is like HAL from 2001, A Space Odyssey, where I think it'll eventually, I won't come back next season because the SNL supercomputer will kill me. So let's move on.
Right.
Everybody take care of Mike and check in, make sure that his computer, actually on your time lapse, imagine if you recorded your own demise because it happened while you were recording the time lapse.
I mean, I don't want to get into this too much. Yeah, the stopwatch just is get into hours and hours. Okay. All right. So bottom of this percentage metric we're doing is, of course, people who did come back for a second season, but screen time actually went down from first 4 episodes of their first to the second season, which is Michael Longfellow, which I think makes perfect sense because he had such a big splash beginning of his first season on Update, first episode, like Cam Patterson did this season, like other people like Kyle Mooney, Cecily Strong, Pete Davidson have in the past. So he had a 9 minutes, 27 seconds of screen time year 1, down a whole 6 minutes to 3:27 in year 2. Of course, Michael Longfellow did come back. He was promoted to repertory cast, and we had big hopes, Sammy, for him. And now season 51, he's no longer on the cast. But this metric for him is kind of like, in hindsight, did make sense because that early on season that he had, his first year, showed so much promise. And I don't think we ever got to that high level again, stat-wise.
Yeah, definitely not. And it really felt like last year there were some moments where I was like, oh, we're getting a Longfellow sketch. We got the turtle game show sketch and the water slide sketch. Like, those are some really great things, but output-wise, we weren't seeing that on the most consistent basis. I guess looking at these newer cast members, though, I know obviously we only have their first 4 episodes of data. It seems like for the most part, I know like everyone's off to a pretty good start. I mean, if you're looking at that sort of that average number of the 7 minutes and 42 seconds, it seems like, with 5 featured players, 3 out of 5 are, hitting above that average threshold.
Let's get into that. That's a perfect segue because I did do the average of all 25 cast members because they all did one season at least, and that was, as Sammy said, 7 minutes 42 seconds from James Austin Johnson, who had the best number of 21 minutes 14 seconds, and number 2 is Veronica, who so far has 13:32 through 4 episodes. So like huge splash right away from Jaj, and he's still killing it now. And Veronica and Ben being second and third place through 4 episodes. And again, this is the last 25 cast members of SNL. So going down that list, you see, of course, Jaj, Veronica, Ben, but then Devin, Heidi, and even Tommy, who did have a showcase and update, but has had a lot of bit roles. So there's been a lot of appearances for him. Michael Longfellow, Bowen, Chris Redd, Ego Wodum. That's the above average. Basically, he's 25. And then around averages, Jane Wickline, Jeremy, Cam, Molly, Sarah, Chloe, Emil. So that's when we get to cast members who don't have season 2 stats, is Chloe, Trost, and Emil, who are in the middle of the pack. But if you go down to the bottom, you're going to see that the cast members who weren't invited back are at the bottom of the list here. So I highlighted them in red. That's Chloe, Emil, Aristotle, Lauren, and Luke Null, who had low screen time in their first 4 episodes. So usually we give a lot of leeway. I don't do Danger Watch for rookies in the first 4 weeks. That would be unfair. We kind of wait for them to have their moment and break through. But the stats are showing that maybe it is important, Nicole, to make that impression early in those first 4, because we're seeing Chloe Trost and Emil Wakim both with exactly 5 minutes, 53 seconds of screen time their first 4 weeks. Aristotle, 4:53, Lauren Holtz, 4:10, and Luke Null, 2:48, who was also shut out of his very first episode.
Luke Null is such a devastating name for statistics. Just Null.
No, yeah.
It's like
He
it's
breaks
right
the
there.
spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Can't put Null in there.
Nuh-uh.
But yeah, do you
Yeah,
think
they had to fire him for you, Mike. You could not have had him in your spreadsheets. That was for
Right.
you.
We weren't podcasting in season 43, so I will
But
not
they knew
take.
you would be someday.
Well, I mean, I was doing some not too deep of stats back in those days, but definitely wasn't doing a show about them. So do not blame me for the demise of Luke Null, please. But yeah, then we have Andrew and Punky, who I mentioned came in at a rough season with that 46 COVID year. And then the person who came back is, of course, Ashley Padilla, who is the 5th from the bottom with 4:32. So she had a worse start stat-wise than Aristotle, who had the worst total screen time of a rookie year that I've recorded. It's 15 minutes, 38 seconds, I think, top of the head, because remember, 15 minutes of fame, 15 minutes, 38 seconds of Aristotle in a whole season. So Ashley Padilla has double that and more in her second season. So Sammy, if you're in your second year of SNL, would this get to you? Are you thinking like, I have to prove that I deserve that promotion?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, obviously, it depends on sort of where you're at, screen time wise, and what you've been able to get on the show in that first season. But clearly, that number, so if we're drawing Chloe Trost here at the 5 minutes and 53 line as like, oh, Danger Watch. Like, I don't think that's the case, because clearly, you have somebody like Ashley Padilla who is brought back. Everybody last year at the end of the season was saying, well, she's definitely coming back because of X, Y, and Z. She's talented. You could see that the show is going to figure out how to use her. Hopefully the show is going to figure out how to use her, and they have done that. But yeah, I do think you definitely, if you're getting that second shot at bat early on in the season, you gotta try to make something happen. But I do feel like a lot of that has to do with everything else going on at the show. Like if Heidi and Ego stay this season, are we seeing this from Ashley Padilla? Like I don't know. Like she still clearly has the talent, but is there sort of the room to produce if that's happening? So it's all about what's the phrase? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So Ashley was prepared, and the opportunity was hers for the taking.
Perfectly said. That's the most important thing, right? Is having the room to do that. So when you have a cast with 2 women in the regular cast and 3 in the featured players, and for a total of 5, that's what's going to happen. And so we're seeing it very organically in that way. So I don't hate that. but the competition is so much lighter. So that takes nothing away from Ashley, but it is important because when you have to have 3 women in a sketch, you have a 3 in 5 shot to be in that sketch as a woman. So that's been really beneficial for Ashley. But if you look at a Jane Wick line, that hasn't been the case, if you put them against each other stat wise. But last sorting I'll do is the total. So that's freshman year, episode 1 through 4, and sophomore year, 1 through 4. Just to highlight Veronica. I know same point, Sammy, but Veronica has 13 minutes, 32 seconds of screen time, and that's better than Longfellow, Punky, and Molly, who did 2 seasons. So that's pretty crazy. That's 4 episodes versus 8 episodes. So highlight that. And we'll see with Tommy, Jeremy, and Cam as far as the men of the cast coming in, the rookies there. Who's going to make that splash? If I do the stat for the first 10, say. So do you have a prediction, Nicole, about the incoming men? Let's leave Ben out of it because he's, basically a vet at this point.
Yeah, it's a good point about the competition factor. Like, I think it makes a huge difference when you look at all these names of guys. Just how can all of them make a huge splash and be the star multiple times throughout an episode on a regular basis? It's hard. So, not to say it's harder for the men, because clearly they, there were more of them who were let in this year, and kept this year. So I don't feel bad for them, but it is a good year to be a woman on the cast in that sense of getting the opportunity. And yeah, I think it's too soon to tell. I think they all have star quality and star power. I think there's a lot of luck involved, and a lot of, if you're meshing with the right writers who are going to write you something good, are you writing a lot for yourself? It's going to come down to a lot of that stuff. Because I think it feels like rolling the dice to make a prediction, because I think they're all talented and they all have it, I think.
So last point, just to piggyback off the point of the night, which Sammy said about that competition for the women, is, the competition for the men is still pretty strong. So if Keenan and Mikey, the 2 senior men of the cast, excluding, Jost and Shay, I mean, Keenan's more tenured than anyone ever, but that room would open up, right? So could you predict, maybe, Sammy, who would be thriving if Mikey and Keenan had left rather than Heidi and Nego?
I mean, looks wise, I feel like Tommy Brennan just has that sort of Mikey quality, somewhat, of being a straight man in the sketch. I know that in the Amy Poehler episode during the home birthing sketch, that was the first thing that came to mind. I'm like, oh, I'm surprised we're getting Tommy in this, especially because we hadn't even seen him at the update desk at that point.
That was such a Mikey role too. I know Mikey did come in as the husband, so he did have a role to play, but that was totally a Mikey role all day.
Yeah. So
looking at that, I did the average for sophomore year, which is 12 minutes, 1 second. So I guess we can check in on our sophomores real quick, other than Ashley, which is Jane Wickline. So 941 so far. So pretty even from freshman year. That's a 29% increase. So things are looking up for Jane Wickline, despite not having a solo update. Did do her character with Marcelo, so we got that on, but had update piece cut week 1 and week 4. So we could have had a really big increase for Jane Wickline if she got one of those on there and got 3 to 4 minutes of screen time. But interesting to look at. I always love just to demystify the trajectory, Sammy. So that's kind of my favorite project that kind of never ends, because it's always more seasons of data to look at. But let's pivot to 5 questions, shall we? Sammy, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, question 1. Who is somber?
I was looking at my email. I was like, that wasn't on the sheet earlier.
No, just kidding. Nicole, do you know who somber is?
A singer, a performer. I think
the musical guest
song
next week with
Back
Nikki
to
Glaser.
Friends and the song Undressed. I think both of those songs. You know the songs. And also,
All
please,
right,
I might
answer.
be wrong. I actually need to fact check myself. It makes me anxious to think I might be spreading. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up.
Don't worry about it. That was a fake question.
Oh,
Question
worry.
number 1, Nicole.
I'm right. It is them. Yes.
I believed you. New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. Will he make an appearance on SNL this week?
So the way you said New York City mayor, I thought you were going New York City marathon.
There we go.
So thanks for saying it that way because I know it was
The
on
marathon's
purpose
getting a
for
lot
me.
of plugs on this episode.
Marathon, Mayor Earl. So I know you did that for me. I know that was on purpose, not my warped self-centered view of things. It's just you can't. It's every 10 minutes you have to talk about it. You can't stop. I can't stop thinking about it.
I'm surprised you're not
already
wearing that
signing up
like
for my next
aluminum
one.
jacket on this podcast right now, whatever that thing is.
Yeah. Oh, I already put my medal away. Oh, I should have worn it. Okay.
Go get it.
Do I think he's going to make
Get
an
it.
appearance? Yes. Do I think it'll be this coming week? I'm on the fence. I'm leaning no. I just think there's going to be a lot going on. Yeah. What or do you have the data on when a politician, whether president or something else, is elected or is not elected? Or yeah, let's say for all the politicians who are elected and appear around that time, what's the most common time for them to appear? Because in my mind, it's like right before the election. It's like the
That's
Sunday
what I was
before
going
an
to
election.
say.
So I think if he didn't appear then, he probably won't appear this coming week just because there's going to be a lot going on, maybe within a month or two. But just thinking of when it happens most often, that already passed.
Well, I would think that if he's going to appear, it's going to be before he actually has, the job to do after the ball drops in Times Square and he's actually the mayor. So ride the
Does the New
high
York
right
City
now.
mayor do that much though? As a lifelong New Yorker, it's a question I've thought about. Are you really doing much?
That's probably a
Could you be doing
question for a
more?
different show, but I mean, you would probably know better than
Yeah.
me and Sammy. So,
Mhm.
Sammy, what do you think? Will he make an appearance this week? And if not this week, maybe before the Christmas show or?
Yeah. I really thought he was gonna make an appearance this past weekend, just as a final push before the election. I know, it's a citywide election versus something on the national stage, but I thought that you're maybe gonna see that. As far as are we gonna see it this weekend? I don't know. I'm trying to think like where in the show that would make sense. For some reason, I'm just thinking a cameo in the monologue makes sense to me, but with Nikki Glazer being the host and her doing probably like a traditional stand-up monologue, I feel like we wouldn't see that slot. So unless they're light on Trump stuff for the cold open week, which we never are, I think we can probably hold until maybe sometime in the new year before he takes office, if that timing lines up. What do you think?
I think now would be the time to do it. Just like I said, ride that high, the victory before the real responsibility sets in. And that's either going to be in the cold open as kind of a walk-on, like we saw Nikki Haley do that in the Iowa Debris episode. And then I think she dropped out of the campaign like pretty soon after that. Or, possibly an update walk-on. That's pretty rare. We saw Obama, take off the Halloween mask. That's like a very iconic politician cameo right there. So I think it's the time to do it. And Sarah Sherman did do a campaign event for Zohran. So, he's familiar with not only SNL, but cast members of SNL. And there was a cool video of him talking to Rami Youssef while he was in costume as Zohran. And it's pretty cool that he's responding to questions about SNL, and it's a New York City institution, of course. So I would not only say this week Zohran, but he'll get to say live from New York. So that's my call. Question number 2, Nicole. You did mention the shorter monologues, right? So stats are going to change this week with a stand-up hosting, but this season's monologues have been the shortest in 10 years on average. So looking at the stats I pulled today, they're 3 minutes, 34 seconds. That's the average monologue. That's really short. Last season, 5:37. If you want to take out Chappelle, because that's a historically long monologue, still pretty long. Season before that, 49, 5:16. 48, also 5:16. 47, 4:22. Season 46, 5:33. So going down the list, they're all like 4.5 minutes or higher for the most part. This season, 3:34. And just in my opinion, I feel like the monologues have been super forgettable. So what do you think?
You're gonna kill me. You're gonna kill me. 3:34 was my marathon time. How do I
Jesus
not
Christ.
mention that?
Wow.
I can't stop. I mean, how do you not say that if it's a like that's a fun coincidence that the numbers, and this is a by the numbers show. There are a lot of
It
numbers
is.
involved with the marathoning.
Lots of
I had to
numbers.
say it.
How
a
many
big
people
count.
ran it?
Did you do that for me? Just kidding.
The stats don't lie.
Did you make sure the average? Okay, I gotta stop. The self-centered. It's getting out of hand.
I did not know your
It's getting
marathon.
really out
time,
of hand.
Just for the record.
Did you run for me? Just kidding. So yeah, I think this is really interesting, and okay, this is a little bit mean. It's a little dark. We'll see what it is. The monologues have been feeling, I don't want to say Chat GPT wrote them, but there's been a sense of there's not as much effort going into them as there are other parts of the show. And just in an era where so much stuff is happening with Chat GPT and in fields that you would never think, like, writing on SNL is such a huge deal, and it's so many talented, gifted people are doing that. The same can be said for like marketing jobs and copywriting jobs. There are such talented, gifted people, and it's an amazing thing to do. But all of a sudden, like, there's a robot that can do it, 80% as well. So that's been my feeling about the monologues. A lot of them feel like they were plugged into an app and then shook around a little bit after that and customized, obviously, a little bit. But I think it's very interesting, given right now is the time that change is happening a lot in the world. So many things are literally being done by that, and jobs are being eliminated because of it. So that's interesting.
This is a
and then, as I
serious
mentioned,
allegation, Sammy. Just so we know.
I know, that's why I didn't know how to say it.
Yeah, I think
I
Jake
think every
Nordwind
job,
and
whether
Mike
you're a
DiCenzo
writer
would like a word.
a writer on SNL, a writer elsewhere, like, people admit that, like, this is happening everywhere. I don't know that it's happening on the show, but every, like, writing related job that I've heard of, like, it people are saying it's happening. It's just the world is changing in that way. So I think it's an interesting thing to bring up and maybe talk about more. I think it's not like a knock against anyone at the show. Literally every single person I know, this app and AI in general is being incorporated into their jobs. So why wouldn't it also be happening on this show? Like, there's just no way.
Well, I guess I can speak on that because,
yeah.
people think that the host of By the Numbers, Mike Murray, they think that I'm AI. People think like, oh, this is automated. And then usually if someone says, no, it's a real guy, then someone makes a really mean comment about me that I'm doing this. But,
I mean, you just said the supercomputer, the SNL supercomputer was going to take over.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't think it's mean. It's if it's happening to every single job I've ever heard of and every single writing job I've ever heard of, why wouldn't it also be happening here a little bit? Like, I don't think that's offensive, right?
I think
just
it's
the
a little
world is
offensive.
changing.
Just because they have a room of
they're
writers,
gonna do it in every writing job in the world except for one? Like,
well, yeah, maybe Chat GPT was like, we should bring up Miles Teller's childhood Halloween photo.
Yeah, it scanned the original.
That's the kind of thing it can
scanned
do.
the original monologue, and they're like, "Oh, we should bring that up again."
Yeah, Sammy, where do
that.
you weigh in? And to go further is like, what makes a good SNL monologue? Because nothing, this is a good conversation about AI and stats and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I just feel like that the monologues, there hasn't been a lot of like comedy in them. They've been very straightforward. And a couple of years ago, we were actually, at least a lot
robotic,
of our podcasters,
would you say?
maybe a touch of that, beep boop, beep boop.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nicole makes some interesting points here. I do agree that they've felt a little formulaic as far as what they're doing. They feel a little stripped down. They feel like they are not being sort of prioritized. I do think we saw this change maybe in like 47 or 48. I remember we were really seeing a change with the monologues to where we were seeing less cast member interaction, less sort of stunts type of thing. And I think at the time, and I still would stand by the fact that like there were a lot of great monologues then, and we sort of liked that direction. I do wonder if we've maybe overcorrected a little bit in that regard, or just going sort of in the direction of what Nicole's talking about with just like where we're at in the world, like social media wise. Like, I'd be curious to see how do monologues perform on social media, on TikTok, compared to just a regular sketch? If a regular sketch is going to do better because there's costumes and there's animated, sort of bigger characters and stuff like that, if those are going to do better when you're just scrolling on your phone and it catches your eye more than like a celebrity standing on stage and a celebrity that you may not even know who they are, then, maybe they're taking that approach to focus on the monologue less. But as far as like, should SNL alter their strategy? Like, I think there have been so many great monologues throughout the years, and I don't think like the idea of putting effort into the monologue should be, thrown away. Like, I think, like I said before, we maybe overcorrected a little bit, and I think there was sort of like reliable couple formulas of monologue. Like, we can do a Q&A, we can go backstage, we can do a lot of different things, and I think maybe there's a point where we're going back to that well too much. But I think we at this point could use a little bit more variety. It's a variety show, so in the monologue as well.
That's a fair measured take, and I'm just gonna have you fill out a CAPTCHA just to make sure you're not an AI podcaster, because that was almost too good, Sammy.
Yeah. I got ChatGPT open right here.
Yeah, that was kind of going to be my take too, is that I think that the monologues became more personal, more autobiographical. And so we were kind of lauding that as a community because it was a little fresher. So maybe that's, there's an overcorrection, as you mentioned, and it will go pendulum swing the other way, and we'll get the song-a-log and the Q&A and the backstage. But I know that last season YouTube numbers like Chappelle and Shane Gillis stand-up monologues were some of the highest viewed segments of the season. So maybe Nikki Glazer doing a stand-up monologue 6-7 minutes will be highly viewed on those platforms.
Yeah, and just to put a little end note on that, that everything I said does not apply to the stand-ups. Like, the stand-up monologue is almost like its own sort of
it's its own thing.
When you have a actor, musician type of person,
I guess maybe we got enough. We got a lot of Sabrina singing with the washer dryer with her 2 songs, and with the grind song that we didn't need a song-a-log for her. She did come in Quinta Brunson's monologue and do like the short people thing last season. So question number 3, Nicole. As I mentioned, we are in the midst of full-on Padilla mania. Copyright, trademark. How does she maintain this success without becoming oversaturated? Because I feel like I've been even seeing comments like, enough about Ashley. When her star has just risen, people love to, build up a hero, but they love even more to tear them down. So how do we avoid that with her?
That's a good question. It's a really good question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's the kind of thing you just have to ride it out. I don't think you can really like plan to avoid it. Like, I think you just have to let the star burn and like see what happens. To be a star, you have to burn a little bit. So I think it just like it comes with it. Not everything's gonna hit. Sometimes it's gonna get annoying. Like Marcello, for example, when he was really like peaking, and all of a sudden it was Marcello, this, that. Like, it didn't get annoying to me, but I think he didn't maintain that level of like frequency and like all of that. And then now I think he could even have more going on, but then there's that sense of, oh, you do miss him. So I guess the secret sauce is when someone's a superstar on the show, they're not 100% of the time being featured as a star 100% of the time. Like, I think there's a little give and take that has to happen, and just like leaving a little bit to be desired or being missed sometimes. And again, just by virtue of the tone of the show changing week to week, like with such a big cast, in the era of like Kristen Wiig, she could be just like super mega star every single week because it was a smaller cast. Like, that was just how it was going to go. There wasn't it just was going to be that way. But with a bigger cast, it does lean more, and just bigger in the same way it's been bigger for the last, 5-8 years. I think there is able to be, when there's a star, it's just they're not going to be the star every episode because they're not going to be every everybody's tone. Like no cast member is everybody's tone. Like, so I think that helps that aspect.
And Sammy, is there anything left on her to-do list right now? Because every week, especially on By the Numbers, I'm going to have to talk about these like historic, record-breaking, all these stats I have to throw out there because I might never say them ever again. So for her, 4 episodes in, second season, what's left in the next, 16 episodes that Ashley could even raise that peak?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this sort of adds on to the point of like, how do we, maintain the success? Like something that we really haven't seen from her. And obviously we're only a season, 4 episodes in for Ashley, but there hasn't been like a character that we've seen, sort of over and over again. We obviously haven't gotten any of her update pieces sort of recur or anything like that. So I'd be curious to see if, I think after this weekend, the Dismukes Ashley weekend update piece, that is something that I thought was such a home run that I would love to see them
so good
do that. I'd honestly love to see them either bring that back at the desk or see if that could work in a sketch, sort of play around with the format a little bit. But so I think that is something that is sort of left on her to-do list. Can she create sort of an iconic sort of character or something that we can kind of see a couple times? And I know we're not really in the era of recurring characters. Another thing is besides Domingo, we don't really see her necessarily in the cold open. So can she do it impressions? Can she do political impressions? I'd be curious to see if that is something we've yet to see from her. But I mean, at this point, we've had so many comparisons on our podcast, and these are obviously high praise, but the people, I was listening to the roundtable comparing her to Phil and Jan Hooks. Like these are people you didn't get sick of on SNL. These are people that you could see in a lot of different things all over the show, and you would never get sick of them because of the type of performer they are. And again, it's early days, but I don't see myself getting overexposed to like what she's able to bring to the show. Like
because she can do everything. I mean, there's nothing
I think
that she's failed at yet.
As a person doing a podcast about SNL, like it's been so fun to see her enter a sketch and see like what she's gonna do. Like it's just been very exciting to watch. So that's what she really needs to sort of maintain. And there's nothing that I've seen so far that has given me any doubt that she can't keep doing that.
And she has been in a lot of the pre-tapes this season. She's been in 12 out of the 22 live sketches. So that's what my favorite thing is, I think, is like you're saying, Sammy, and I said the word organic earlier, is it's very old school, which is what I love about Dismukes. I loved about Mikey Day when he started, and Keenan, is when someone is a live sketch person. I love the, home runs at Update or the stand-ups or, the rap pre-tapes, and there's so much variety, or like, other films, like we saw Martin Hurley do one. It's like very like Albert Brooks in season 1. But when someone can just bring it small or big in live sketch, and that's how they become a star, like that's how we get a Kristen Wiig, a Bill Hader, a Will Ferrell, Jan Hooks, Phil Hartman. I mean, imagine Nicole social media back then. People were like, enough of this Will Ferrell guy. Seen enough of this.
Right.
So thankfully, we didn't have to deal with those comments back then. I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but
and the think piece didn't come out as quickly, like Vanity Fair. In the Kristen Wiig era, an article like that would have taken twice as long, 3 times as long to be written and
because
sent
of
out
AI.
on the. Honestly, yeah, that's part of it. Like,
well, because
the
they didn't
news
have
cycles
SNL stats
faster,
back
everything.
That
Yeah.
too. Everyone had to have their own stopwatch at home. There wasn't just one source of truth.
Right. Stopwatch
Yeah,
sales.
people were using the clock on the wall. They were doing it by hand.
They were looking at the sundial, just trying to see how long was that person on screen.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, I think one time I did do it by hand because I had like nothing else. I was like at work doing it.
I thought you were gonna say you did it by the sun, which I'm like, wow, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it does air at night, but
all
right, question
Sunday morning. We know.
I usually Sunday night during Sunday Night Football. That's when you can find me doing my stats. But question for Sammy: James Austin Johnson is only, just like our president, is only 9-10 months into the term. But since Jadge has been in the cast since 47 during the Biden term, where he was playing President Biden, he now is at 42 Trump impressions already, with 3 years on the horizon for, Trump content. So he's already on pace this season to break Alec Baldwin's record of 53 Trump appearances. So what do you think is like the biggest difference between those two impressions? I mean, the stat stands for itself. Like, he's going to break that record this season, probably easily. There's 16 more episodes. He needs 11 more Trumps to do it. We saw 2 Trumps this week alone. So like, how do you parse that, the Baldwin Trump to the Jadge Trump? Like, what changed comedically or just stylistically?
Yeah, I mean, the Baldwin Trump was never sort of a long-term play. I mean, going back to 2016, I don't think the show really anticipated that this would, be where we're at. So it was stunt casting, and I think, I mean, honestly, I when that happened and they brought in Baldwin to play Trump, I really liked it. I think over time, well, a couple things happened. I think the impression overall was a little one note. I feel like the makeup and sort of the face he was sort of making, the lips and everything, was doing a lot of the heavy lifting as far as like building a character and embodying that character. And then it also just, I think, has left a bad taste in a lot of SNL fans' mouth, because it sort of it was the representative of the stunt casting era of SNL with the political impressions. Whereas with Jadge, he was hired, while Trump was, as they said in the Property Brothers sketch, evicted for a couple of years. Trump was evicted for a couple of years. Jadge is hired. We initially think he's hired to maybe be Biden, but also we are seeing that, he was getting a lot of Trump stuff go viral on social media of his impression. And you can argue that the Trump impression is why Jadge is on the show. Like, that is the type of thing that they sought out. They thought, he'll probably run again. It'll be good to have somebody in the building. We don't have to call somebody in every week. And I think because of that, the impression is it's what he had to craft that over time to sort of that is what helped him, as a comedian, be put on the map. So it's just totally different circumstance as far as the performances are, or as far as the performers were in their careers when they did this impression. So the Jadge impression is like, I think it's like a fully lived in character. I honestly think it's one of my favorite political impressions that the show's ever done. I think we still get different sort of modes for him. I think a lot of the times I wish the writing for the Trump stuff was a little different or a little more varied, and going less back to the well on certain sort of tropes. But I've never had an issue with his performance as Trump. It's like, it is top tier for what you're looking for as far as a political impression on the show.
Definitely. And Nicole, the next record to beat once he passes Baldwin is like Daryl Hammond Clinton, which is like in the 90s, not only the decade, but the number of times. So of course, if Trump serves a full 4-year term, and so does Jadge in the cast for these 4 years, then that's easily beatable at that point if he passes Baldwin's 53 Trumps. So have you liked, because I'm speaking for myself, I have really liked it, the Boys podcast, the White POTUS last season, and now this week with the Property Brothers. Maybe, we're going to get Trump. We expect it. Some of us love it. Some of us hate it. But Nicole, have you liked seeing Trump outside the cold opens? Like, is that maybe a winning strategy?
I think it is a winning strategy because it's just so easy to get sick of him in the old standard way. Him as in the man, the real Donald Trump. So it is fun, but I'm starting to get a little bit like tired of it in a way. Like it just keeps being like he walks into the sketch and it's like, it's me. And it's like, I've liked it, but I can feel myself. I think the next few times it happens, I'm gonna be a little like, okay, yeah, we know it's you, it's you. So I've liked it, but I don't actually want that to be the winning strategy forever. Like I was saying before, when something's really working, don't necessarily keep doing it. Like chill. Like Domingo, for example. I Domingo being a cold open recent. I did not like that decision. I didn't get to talk about that because I wasn't on a show that week. But things like
Last
that.
week on
It's
By the
just like
Numbers,
knowing.
my guest Kirsten wanted Trump to come in and blow up the whole Domingo cold open. So, could have had
Oh
both.
gosh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm feeling there.
Instead, we got Ice called on the Property Brothers, but that was her pitch was Ice coming in for
Okay.
Domingo. And I was like, that is super dark. Very Michael O'Donoghue in 2025. Let's bring us to our last question. We mentioned Nikki Glazer coming into 8H this week. Saw a cool, she's known as a roaster. So I saw her interact with the cast in the Wednesday promo. So this is like quick count because it's tough. Some people have done stand-up, but they're not known for stand-up. Some are like actively touring stand-ups, like a Nikki Glazer, a Bargatze, or a Gillis, Bill Burr. But she's about like the 10th, 11th, or 12th, depending on what your standard is for a female stand-up. So, Nicole, are you a Nikki Glazer fan?
Oh, completely. Yeah.
Okay.
I have been for a long time. And I'm glad, like, I mean, the Tom Brady roast, I know that changed everything for her, but she was like, she's a great person to get super famous from something like that because she's been so funny for so long and so hardworking for so long. Like, she's a good example of someone who has a naturally funny way about her, but also her comedy comes from working really hard and like being well researched and then taking all of that and well researched about like silly things, whatever it is, and taking all of that and like just crafting masterpieces out of it. So I'm like such a fan. I feel like I'm a fan of her process as much as anything from how I've heard her talk about it. So I think it was inevitable that she was going to get this opportunity, but to your point, it's like should she have needed, to have to go so viral and have that moment for this to become inevitable? Like there are so many female comedians who are true comedians, not necessarily like movie star funny actor comedians, like true comedians who like should have also been given this chance. And so I think she's going to do an amazing job and then maybe it'll happen more after that.
Yeah, so Sammy, we actually did have some Nikki Glazer influence last season. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about? Because there was a joke that she made while hosting the Golden Globes in January that made its way to SNL. Does that ring any bells?
I remember her hosting, obviously, but no, I don't remember.
Because Timothy Chalamet was up for the Golden Globe for the Bob Dylan movie.
Right.
And she's, was roasting all the nominees and said Timothy Chalamet is like would sound great coming from Adam Sandler.
Right.
And had Adam Sandler say it live into the microphone. And then Sandler introduced Chalamet's performance when he did Double Duty.
Yes.
So there is a little Nikki Glazer invisible string. I'll say that because she's a fellow diehard Swiftie like me. But we have had Tiffany Haddish, Amy Schumer, Sarah Silverman, of course, SNL alum right there, Ellen, Rosie O'Donnell, Roseanne Barr, Joan Rivers, Lily Tomlin. So there's been some that are like actual legit stand-ups that aren't really known primarily for TV, because I also included like Quinta Brunson, Iowa Debris. Like they've done stand-up, but they're really known for their TV work. So Sammy, is there any either comedic actress or stand-up that you would love to see host SNL in the future?
Yeah, I think the sort of number one name that came to mind for me was Nicole Byer. She's somebody who I've heard on a ton of podcasts, comedic podcasts, and she's gotten a lot more hosting gigs the last couple of years. And I think she's also good friends with Sashir Zameda. I think they had a podcast together for a while too. So she's somebody. And then looking at the comedic sort of actress route and not necessarily stand up, Rachel Sennett's new show, We Love LA, just came out on HBO. So I feel like she's somebody who I've thought for a while would be an interesting choice as well for SNL.
I feel like Rachel Sennett's got to be a lock at this point, and definitely has some friends there. Nicole, you're pretty tapped in. Are you a stand-up fan in general? Do you go see stand-up?
I do. I haven't been as much in the routine of it. I kind of go through waves where I'm like going more frequently. So I haven't been going as much. So yeah, come back to me on the question of who to shout out, because I haven't been going as much recently.
Seeing Patty Harrison, Taylor Tomlinson.
Harrison.
Oh, I love Patty Harrison. She's so funny.
And she was
I
in
always the
80 Bryant's
culture.
show. I love that show.
Yeah.
Meg Stalter
The
would be another
last-
good one from Hacks.
I could see her doing it.
Hannah Einbinder. Can't believe I didn't think of her.
Hannah Einbinder, I think, has to. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, even they haven't announced. No, she wouldn't. No, the 1,000, she wouldn't. Right? Is that's too big of a deal, or is it the perfect amount of a big deal?
I mean, is NBC
Kinda cool.
/ SNL going to make a big deal out of it? Or is it going
That's
to
the
be
question.
sort of I feel like it'll be a similar thing to the Amy episode. So I don't think Hannah hosting it is that out of the realm of possibility.
I think that could be really cool. I mean, it would if she wants to lean into the Nepo baby thing. Now, I don't think she would say no to that opportunity, but it would be kind of blowing up her spot a little bit, because when you can kind of get away with it in a different way when you have a different last name, because like not everybody realizes that she's a huge Nepo baby in the comedy world. So like there is something to be said for that. So she wouldn't say no, but it would blow up her spot a little bit, because she's kind of gotten away with it with like casuals.
I'd bring up Ali Wong, who I think still is dating Bill Hader.
Bill Hader, yeah.
Get a way to get Bill back in the building. Nothing, taking away from Ali if she got that spotlight, but it would be cool. Little connection there. So sound off in the comments. I know Taylor Tomlinson, John Schneider, our very own, did ask her in the flesh at JFL about hosting SNL, and she was game. So like to see her. I think she's on tour. So that'd be cool. But yeah, let's get more of that. So that about does it though. Sammy, great to have you back, sir. How's Michael Longfellow doing?
He's good. Not to tell you how to run your show, but we're gonna look at the power rankings, or we out of time?
Let's pop them on. That's a good call. All right, here's the power rankings. Number 1, Ashley Padilla, a featured player leading the power rankings. Haven't seen this, I think, since Jadge's first episode in season 47, when he played Biden in the cold open and had a monster 10-minute episode. So 104.5. Down goes Colin Jost. Down goes Sarah Sherman, Bowen Yang. It's Ashley Padilla, 104.5. Number 2 is now Colin Jost, 95.1. Chloe Feynman, 94.1. So keeping track, that means Ashley's ahead by like 10 points right now. That's crazy in the power rankings. Number 4 is Andrews Mukes, 91.0. Sarah Sherman finally has a down week, so that really tanked the stock a little bit, Sammy. Now 81.9, but I'm sure Sarah will be back and better than ever the next 2 weeks. Keenan Thompson, who was outside the top 10 a lot of last season and this season, is now number 6 with a huge week, 76.2. James Austin Johnson, 67.6 in the 7th spot. Bowen Yang is back, 65.8, his best episode of the season. Mikey Day, 64.8 in the 9th spot, and Marcelo Hernandez, 63.5. So Nicole, Marcelo, I thought would be always hovering around 4, 5, 6, but this week definitely brought it down. Week 2 brought it down with Amy Poehler. So are we expecting a Marcelo top 5 finish this year?
Yeah, I think I don't see him staying down there. I would be shocked. I don't know. Like I would bet so much money against it. It just, 4 episodes is a pretty small sample size, so Like, I don't think Ashley, even if her star continues to rise, I don't think she's gonna stay this high. I just don't. Um, and obviously Jane being like in the middle and under like the first year cast members, that's danger zone hardcore. Again, even though 4 episodes is a small sample size, it's still not nothing. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, the difference between Colin and Che is super interesting. Like I mentioned earlier, it's just like the Colin thing with riffing up for the segments. It's just such an easy money thing for the show, but it's like it feels like every year there's a bigger divide of that. And I mean, maybe they don't care. They're happy with how that goes. So if they don't care, I don't care. But yeah.
Thank you. So number 11, Michael Che, 56.3. Veronica Slawakowska leading the rookies right here, 52.8. Went down a spot with all this movement here, but then Ben Marshall right behind her, 50.0 after 4 weeks. Tommy Brennan, 43.1. It's been pretty consistent. We had some not so great weeks for the rookies, as mentioned, but Tommy Brennan since then has been consistent, 54.8, 53.3, now 46.7. Averages out 43.1. Jane Wickline, as Nicole mentioned, is below Veronica, Ben, and Tommy because she was the lone shutout of the season in week 1 with that update piece cut. She's at a 38.5. Cam Patterson, 31.8. And last but not least, Jeremy Cullen, 30.7. Sammy, do you see any, you can do comps, you can shout out a moment, but Jeremy Cullen, we're kind of waiting for that moment right now. Where do you see him shining? Would it be a character piece, update, impression? What do you think?
Yeah, I think for me, some sort of character piece, just with his background being sort of like the dropout college humor type of vibe. I think I could totally see that for him. I think I'm hoping in this next sort of run of show we'll get something from him because I think it is sort of important early on, as we looked earlier at those sort of average screen time in your first year versus your second year. Like it'd be good to get something from him soon. One other thing, I know we've been talking about Ashley a lot, but like the 158.1 number for her last week. What do you know off the top of your head? What's the highest individual episode power rank number you've ever recorded? Because that's the fact that that's like above Keenan in this episode is very impressive to me.
Just looking at last season, we had Mikey Day 172 in the Chalamet episode. We had a 161 Bowen in the Martin Short 5-timer episode. So it is a good point. It is super high, not the highest. I think top of the head. Bowen Yang in the Jason Momoa 49 episode was a 185. That's crazy. And Mikey Day in the Bad Bunny episode in 49, 205. I think Cecily in the Paul Rudd finale in like season 44, like she outscored Paul Rudd, the host, in that episode. So that one comes to mind. And Keenan in the Rachel Brosnahan episode was huge as well. So just going by memory, but Keenan's had a couple of those. Idris Elba in season 44 was a huge Keenan week. Rachel Brosnahan, that episode, he had more screen time than her, the host, was at a 207. So it getting over 100 is tough as it is, but getting to like 200 is insane. So yeah, good take there. And like talk about Ashley a ton, but week 1, 36.9. So the fact that she's over 100 average while carrying that low number week 1 makes it all the more impressive. So Nicole, did you get the nostalgia looking at the power rankings?
Of course. Of course. I mean, I feel like they've gotten more powerful with time. So, I mean, nostalgic, yes, but I've known that they've been just growing in intensity and in their world domination all this time.
Yeah, so we're at a little over an hour, but it wasn't like the end of year shows, Nicole, which are like really marathon shows.
You could say that.
Yeah, remember those shows? They were pretty
You could call it a
marathon-like.
marathon. You could say that.
Well, Nicole, so great having you back. What do you have to say to the listeners of By the Numbers and the SNN?
Great to be back. Thank you for having me. I do appreciate how whenever I get to come back, I'm so welcomed, and I appreciate it. It means a lot. Um, and it's cool to see a lot of the same names in the chat who have been here for so long. As I've said, like, you're as important as I was about to say you're as important as Mike, but I do think nobody is as important as Mike.
Debatable.
I like it is unbelievable what you do and how consistent you are doing it, and how long you've been doing this for. It's insane. But the listeners certainly are as important, if not more important than us as a collective of podcasters. This just wouldn't be happening without all of you guys. And so it's really cool to see new names and a lot of names that have been here all along. So I know we all appreciate that. And yeah.
Anything to plug? Any more races coming up?
Not really. I mean, these days you could follow me on Strava. You could track me on my races. That's about it. I'm gonna probably rip some like 5Ks and 10Ks in the winter, and then I already have my eye on an April marathon and a September marathon. Um, I love a 5K, a local
5,000
neighborhood
miles.
5K,
That sounds like a lot.
raising money. I don't know, a 3.1 miler that raises money for like a local school where I just bulldoze past all the children and elderly people who are running for a good cause because I don't care about the good cause and I want to win. That's probably what my winter will look like. So you could follow me. You could that's what I've got, and I yeah, that's the main thing.
This is how I win, Sammy. What was your Halloween costume this year? I still think about your Uncut Gems, Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Basically, like every few weeks, I think about that costume.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that stuck in your memory like that. This year I was Benicio del Toro in One Battle After Another. I was the sensei character, and my friend was Leo from the movie, and I think it turned out pretty well. We ran into a couple of Leos in bathrobes and sunglasses in Chicago when we were in Chicago this past weekend. But yeah,
did you battle them?
It was all love. It was all there's trust. We all have the same trust device. If you've seen the movie, we all were able to establish contact with one another. But Mike, this is great. Thanks for having me. We've been talking about marathons all episode, and I didn't plug that. I had been doing a marathon on my own at home, going through all of the old seasons of SNL in preparation to our Patreon podcast, going back 20 years later of season 31. So if you guys have not gone and checked out on Patreon or become a YouTube member, me and John Schneider have been going week by week when the episodes aired in season 31, all the way back in 2005. And doing an episode sort of recapping that season. And we just talked about the Lance Armstrong episode. So a lot of talk of Live Strong bracelets and, everything that was going on in the news then. And next week we'll be covering the Jason Lee episode, which is the debut of Kristen Wiig. So you'll definitely want to check that out. And as always, follow me at that Sammy Kay on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. And, Nicole's plugging Strava. I'm going to plug my Letterbox. So if you guys are on Letterbox, hit me up. Oscar season is right upon us. So
thanks so much, Sammy. Yeah, that Jason Lee episode, I watched it recently to get her debut screen time preseason. So good show. Can't we check that one out? And just great timing. Is that your favorite SNL season? Is it up there?
I think for me it's 32 or 33. I mean,
yeah.
I'm such a big Bobby guy. So once Bobby sort of joins the mix there in 33.
But I watched Bobby's first episode, preseason 2, just, thinking about all that pepper smell in that episode. I remember like where I was watching Bobby Moynihan's like first big sketch.
Yeah.
He's got some good debut screen time.
Yeah. 34, I think, for Bobby. It's just got to make sure I got my stats right. Season 34. But yeah.
Always appreciated. Well, thank you to the chat. As Nicole said, we love the listeners. If you want more stats, you want some different stats, let me know. For every interesting stat I present you guys, I probably have like 200 or 300 that aren't interesting. So I try to pick those ones that you guys want to hear. So if you can give me one of those ideas, love to bring
They're
those to
all
you.
interesting.
Well, I just mean like the data points. There's just a lot that goes into it, Nicole, as you know. So I'm always just happy to find the connections and, just
you
kind
just
of
you
bring
make
the
it
heat.
you make it look like you make it seem like it's all interesting. So that's, I think, how everybody else sees it too, even if it's not actually true.
Well, I appreciate that. It is a labor of love, and love SNL, love stats. So that's why we're here. And we're going to be here next week, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, to cover that Nikki Glazer somber episode. And the Hot Take Show will be Saturday, hosted by John, with some great panelists. Roundtable Monday after that. And as mentioned, Wednesday, By The Numbers will be back to give you all the stats about that. I want to thank LateNighter.com for presenting us, and Nicole Rovine, Sammy Kay, I'm Mike Murray. We will see you next time, everybody. Thank you so much.